Okay, so as I mentioned in the lecture, I did want to demonstrate some examples of GIS on the web. We're going to be focused on desktop GIS to build our desktop GIS, excuse me, to build our foundation for our knowledge with GIS, and then take that and move forward with it. But we do have to understand that this is already on the web, and this has been the big push for many years in GIS, is to get data on the web and to distribute maps and share content. So the very first example, and these are links in the lecture, in the PowerPoint, the PDF version of the PowerPoint, so you can go ahead and click on those and interact with these as well. My very first example here is ArcGIS Online, so this will be a resource that we use within ArcGIS Desktop as well, so bear that in mind. If I come over here and just click on Map, for example, it's going to start with a very basic base map, and when I click on base map here, I've got several to choose from. These same types of maps that are served out on the web by Esri are available to you in desktop GIS as well. I'm going to go ahead and back out on this just a little bit so we can kind of see the entire interface. But I am going to go back to the original page here because I'm going to want to sign in, and I'll come back to that in just a moment. I'm going to demonstrate Baltimore County's My Neighborhood application, which puts out wonderful sets of layers that the county maintains as a public service. It does have a link there to be able to get the data, so they do sell their data and make a lot of their data available to the public for use on desktop GIS, but also they have a web application, a web presence using an interactive map. And then, of course, the one that gets a lot of attention, I demonstrate this a lot, is the Sex Offender Registry in Maryland. This is a public website. This is public knowledge. This is free information on the web about sex offenders registered throughout the state of Maryland. It's always a controversial topic, but it is also a good application of doing some basic spatial analysis to understand what's going on around us. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate each one of these within this video here. So I'm going to go ahead and just describe this ArcGIS Online product, if you will. Again, a lot of information is going out onto the web in terms of mapping. There's lots of capabilities these days in terms of Google Maps, ArcGIS Online, lots of different ways to share data. And of course, ArcGIS Online is no exception. This is a free to you as the user, so you all had to create Esri global accounts. You can actually go to sign in here, and you have to register your global account with arcgis.com, and then you're able to search for content within this interface and see what people are hosting out there and kind of the data and applications that are available for you to look at. So I'm going to go ahead and log in as myself here. And when I log in, when I sign in, you're going to see that I'm part of the CCBC Geospatial Applications organization. But if I click on my name up here, it's going to take me to my personal profile within the organization. So being a part of the Geospatial Applications program, we have a organizational-wide account. But to you, as individual users, you can get an account for free and start to post your maps and your data up on a map online within this interface. So I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to kind of play with this and sort of get to know it. You feel free to ask me questions, shoot me an email if you're playing around with it and kind of get stuck. But for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to hop over here, and you can see my profile there. And I'm part of the CCBC Geospatial Applications Program organization. If I click on My Content, I've only got one map and one web mapping application that I like to use as for demonstration purposes. This is a project that we've been working on for several years now, where we use GPS to map tree plantings along the edges of streams. This is for the Gunpowder Valley Conservancy, and we've been working with this client for several years now, and it's a win-win situation where they get free data that is very useful to them on their trees, and we get the experience within the program that goes on your resumes, that goes towards getting you guys jobs. So I want to just go ahead and open this up. You can open this up in a couple of different ways. ArcGIS Explorer Online is another ArcGIS product that you can get for free online to look at and analyze maps. I'm going to open mine in arcgis.com, but you could also open it up right on your desktop with ArcGIS Desktop, the installation that you have used. So I'm going to go ahead and open up ArcGIS.com here, and it's going to load my map. And it's a fairly basic map. A couple of different layers here. Again, the concept of attributes and points, lines, and polygons. So we have 3 examples of that. I can switch over here to show the different layers in different ways, and we'll see that in just a minute. And then we can also see the different ways that we're symbolizing the different trees. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to kind of pan my map over and zoom in here. I'm going to turn off my trees for just a second, and I'll come back to that. So you can see the different streams that are leading into the Loch Raven Reservoir is a drinking water reservoir here in the Baltimore area. Many of you may be familiar with it. So we want to control what's as much as we can the types of pollutants that are going into our drinking water supply. So one of the ways we can do that is by planting trees in areas where trees had been removed for either agricultural purposes or for development, and trying to use those trees to control erosion and to filter out nutrients. So I can click on one of these polygons, for example, and I can see that that's plot number 4, and it's 5.36 acres. So right off the bat here, right at the beginning, we're seeing that we've got some information. These are the attributes for that particular polygon, and that's what I'm hammering home here very early on: points, lines, polygons, and their accompanying attributes. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the trees back on according to their life status, and I'll turn the legend on over here, and we can see that we're going to have some trees that are dead, some trees that are healthy, some spots where there is no tree as recorded out in the field. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit tighter here. And then you can see some trees that are unhealthy. Now those aren't the only attributes that we've collected out in the field. We're just showing that, that layer according to those attributes to show where we could potentially plant trees in some of these areas where we see dead and no tree locations. And I'll show another example of that over here where I turn off the tree life status and I turn on the shelter status. So each of these trees, when it's planted, has a shelter, and it also has a stake associated with it that helps to hold up the shelter. So I'll just jump back over here to the shelter status, and then if I come back over to the legend, you can see that we've recorded out into the field, into the GPS, whether it was down, it's in good shape, it needs replacing, a shelter is needed for a particular tree, maybe a tree has grown and done well and thrived and no longer needs a shelter, no longer needs the shelter removed, or it just doesn't have a shelter altogether. So very quickly you can see here we got a lot of blue in this area, so maybe this is an area where we might want to take some action during a maintenance outing and go and remove some of the shelters for these mature trees. We can see those attributes just by clicking on one as well, and you can see that it's more than just the shelter status attributes that we collect out in the field. The name of the site where we're working, the species of the tree is identified, so we're talking about a real environmental science type of application of GIS here. We do measure the heights of the trees out in the field. Again, the shelter status and the stake status, excuse me, that's a tough one to say. And then of course our primary and secondary vegetative invasive species. There are species of vegetation out there that could harm the trees, and we record those, and we try to indicate where those types of invasive species are located. So if I come back over here, I can actually turn off my shelter status map and turn on my primary invasives, and we can see that we have a bit of a problem with what looks like Japanese stiltgrass in some of these areas closer to the stream. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. We can see that our primary invasive was recorded as Japanese stiltgrass. So very quickly, points, lines, polygons, accompanying attributes. You can see the power of being able to distribute these maps to an organization very quickly via the web. And being able to print and share these types of maps. So that's an example of what I would like for you guys to be looking at when you go to do assignment number 1, GIS on the web. I'm going to go ahead and flip over to Baltimore County's My Neighborhood site here, and I'm going to go ahead and sign my life away and agree to the user terms. And I'm going to enter that, and you can see the Baltimore County region here and all the major highways. And very similar to what you're going to see in ArcGIS are some of the basic tools here. They've made these very convenient buttons to switch between different types of layers. Okay, so we have different features here. What looks like libraries. I'm going to go ahead and use my Identify tool here. And I'm going to click there, and I can see that those are senior centers. Anything in S is some sort of a senior center around the county. I'm going to zoom in a little bit tighter here so things start to spread out. All right, and so we can see some other civic and government entities around the county. Just kind of pan up here and use my identify tool again. And of course, this is going to be a recycling center and waste management facility. This is going to be one of the county dumps up in the Cockeysville area. The Cockeysville Library here, and again, attributes and the features accompanying them within the map. So again, getting information out to the public through a free service online. You can zoom in what we call scale dependencies here. You can see that certain types of features are going to get turned on and certain types of features are going to get turned off. I'm zooming into the Towson area here, and as we get closer and closer, we can see that roads start to come on. And again, depending on what scale, again, a scale dependency that you're located, you will start to see more information. I'm zooming in kind of on Goucher College here. All right, and now we start to see the property boundaries start to come up. One of the things that we can do is we can search for an address. I'm going to come in here and do 7201 Rossville Boulevard. I'm going to go ahead and search for that. And it's going to come up with a couple of different possibilities. And so there we can see the main property parcel for the Community College of Baltimore County's Essex campus. I can go ahead and turn on imagery here. And so we have some high-resolution imagery of the Essex campus where I reside. And again, if I turn off that imagery there, you can see the property layers there. And one of the things that we can do is we can query that information and get owner information on those different properties. So of course, if I click on this particular parcel, and of course the Essex campus is made up of several parcels that have been purchased over the years, you can see that the Board of Trustees, Essex Community College, part of the Community College of Baltimore County, information is all listed there. Over here, we also see some other information about the campus. And so we can click on any one of those and get additional information. Again, points, lines, polygons, their accompanying attributes. Sort of a base foundation for our analysis and our map making within a context of GIS. Quick and dirty, I'd love for you guys to go ahead and click on the link in the PDF and interact with this, get comfortable with it, learn the tools, but then of course you got to go and find your own as part of assignment number 1. So the last one I'm going to show you here is the Maryland Sex Offender Registry. For a long time it was just a list online, but this is publicly available information, and of course where sex offenders live has geography to it. There's a place out in the world where they live, and so maybe we're considering this a public service type of map that the state of Maryland has put out there. And so I'm going to go ahead and close this, and you can see you can change the geography here, and you can do searches, and all the dots there, the gray dots that you see around the state, are the registered sex offenders and where they are located around the state. So if I come over here and I say perform another search, let's just say that you're from not from Maryland, not from the Baltimore region or anywhere around in the region, and let's say you're moving into Frederick County, and you're going to send your kids to school, and maybe you're concerned within a 1-mile radius of Frederick High School where sex offenders are located. So that's going to send it to a server, and it's going to load up a web map very quickly, and you can see, you can click on the different types of features that tell you what that feature is. You can see places that we frequent regularly, banks, schools, and right in the middle here of our 1-mile radius is Frederick High School. And so we can see the different types of offenders here at the bottom, and again, publicly available information, so we can click on that and we can see what the charge was, the person's personal information, and just kind of an indicator of who you may want to watch out for while you're out there. The point here is not to shock anyone and say, oh my goodness, the sex offender registry and this is on a web map. It's more, we're doing spatial analysis. We're asking a geographic question using the technology. So I encourage you guys to come into this application. Again, the link is out there in the PDF, and try your own address, try your own neighborhood, and take a look around. It's the very beginning of you using these technologies to start asking geographic questions, but you're all geographers. Maybe some of you don't know it. I like to tell all my students that. And so this day and age with smartphones and the internet and digital technology, we're doing more geography than we realize. And that geospatial revolution video right at the end kind of talks about that this type of technology that we use on a regular everyday basis is making geography sort of ordinary, and it's kind of our everyday lives, and some people realize it more than others. So as part of a GIS class, you're learning that foundation within a desktop environment, and so I encourage you guys to get moving through your module and take a look at some of these web maps as an example, and then move into assignment number 1, where you find your own web map, your own interactive map with these similar types of tools that you're going to share with us as the group to the class up on your discussion board and as part of your assignment.